Good morning.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great, great.
So what I'm going to do is let you talk right now.
Okay.
Hey, Pastor Nick, this is Garrett Galloway, Marvin's brother. How you doing?
I'm well, brother. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing pretty good. Just sitting up here talking to Miss Phyllis.
Yes, absolutely. It's an awesome opportunity to speak the truth about Marvin's situation. Get
Yes.
the word out about the injustice that's been done to him.
So how did you become interested in Marvin's case?
So what actually happened is I was watching, this was back in March of 2016,
Wow.
and I was watching a video on YouTube about the unjust police shooting of a young black male named Jonathan Farrell in North Carolina in 2013. And so someone left a comment about Marvin's case in the comment section. So I said, okay, let me take a look at this. So I did a Google search, and I found a petition for Marvin about getting him justice. It no longer exists. But I looked into his case. So I read the petition, and I did more research beyond that. And I said, oh, man, this is unjust. I have to do something about it. Now, I'm an amateur documentary filmmaker.
Okay.
So I said, well, one thing I can make a difference is I can make a video about it. So I made about a 10-minute video about his case, based on what I knew about it at the time. So the little information I had to go off of based on articles I had read, which was enough for me to make a video. But I've learned a lot since then. So I made this video just to get the word out about the injustice that he had experienced. And one of the things I emphasized was the contrast between his case and the case of a man named Henry McGee, which parallels Marvin's case, that took place in December of 2013, 5 months prior to the raid on Marvin's apartment and then his unjust arrest. And from there, some time went by, and again, this all took place in March of 2016. So I found out about it and made the video within that month. And so some time went by, and I said, you know what? I want to do more than just make this video. I want to reach out to Marvin. So I ended up connecting with Marvin through a friend of mine on Facebook. By the grace of God, how it happened was amazing. So she put me in touch with him. And again, he can only call out. You can't call him. So so what happened is I found out where he was jailed, and I sent him a letter. And it was about 2 or 3 weeks later, I got a letter in return. And then he called me, and this all took place in September of 2016. So we spoke for the first time in September of 2016. And then from there, he would call sporadically, and we weren't able, because we really wanted to start recording his calls and getting them out for people to hear his side of the story, to go against the propaganda that has been created about his guilt. And so we weren't able to do that for a while, but then finally in June of 2018, he called, and what had happened, the reason we weren't communicating via mail is because they started tampering with his mail, and so anything that was sent to him, he wouldn't get. He could send stuff out, not consistently, but he was able to get some stuff out, but you couldn't get stuff to him, and so it was a situation where you were very limited in being able to communicate with him. And between the first time we spoke in September of 2016 and June of 2018, we didn't talk, but and he called more than the amount of time we talked. It's just he would call and my phone would be off, or I wouldn't be expecting it, so I maybe have the ringer down, or I wouldn't have it on me or something like that. But finally, in June of 2018, he called. He had enough time on his phone card. He actually had multiple phone cards, and I had the time And so we are finally able to record a conversation. We're finally able to record a conversation. And ever since then, for almost the last 2 years, I've recorded several calls from Marvin. I've posted them up on his website, freemarvinlguy.com, and on his Facebook page, Free Marvin Lewis Guy. So people can check those out there. Everything Marvin has to say, and it's very, very powerful. Hearing what he experienced from his perspective, from his point of view, which is validated by the statement of the police officers in Marvin's case file, which is also on the Facebook page and the website that people can check out.
I've been looking at. I looked at the first video that you did. It was on YouTube.
Yes, ma'am.
I looked at that one, and I watched them all actually, and I did share them. But like me and Garrett was saying, that we need to do more because we have a community. Right. We have a community that some didn't know, and then we have a community that's left since then. So we were talking about something. We need to do something here to make a stronger statement.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, there's more I can do as well. There's more that everyone can do.
Yes.
I'm definitely convicted about that. There are people contacting people that Marvin has asked me to get in touch with. He sent me. I did get a number of documents. A lawsuit that Marvin filed, and also a letter from him, which, which is very powerful. And I just posted the letter and those documents on both the Facebook page and the website, so people can check out all that. And the website is under the document page. So you just go to freemarvinlguy.com. and you click on documents at the top, the link at the top of the page, and you'll see actually the letter, and you'll see that the lawsuit. And so he wants me to get in touch with a number of people. In the letter he sent me, on the back of the letter, he listed a name of a specific Texas civil rights attorney that he wants me to reach out to, and also he gave me the information. So let me just see it. For the Texas Civil Rights Project. I'm going to be reaching out to them.
You mean the Innocence Project?
It says the name of it is the Texas Civil Rights Project, so I don't know if it has anything to do with the Innocence Project. I think this is a different entity, but I'm not sure. I just found out about them. I did quickly go on their website just to make sure the address was correct, the address and even the phone number, and it is. So I'm going to be giving them a call and also, sending whatever I have to them. To hopefully, as Marvin said in his letter, to get someone to bite. Reach out to as many people as possible, and hopefully someone who finds out about a situation will want to step up to the plate and help him finally receive justice and freedom.
The letter that you send out to someone and for Marvin. Okay, in my other life that I live, I'm the state education chair for Texas State NAACP. So I myself, I file civil rights cases quite often, and I use the Innocence Project because the Innocence Project are the ones who get people out of jail. When you hear this person's been freed, and you never hear a lawyer's name. It's the Innocence Project that does that. When you send a letter to the Innocence Project, it works better if you put your name and who you are on there, and not just not your first and last name. But if you have pastor, reverend, or president of, those letters get faster. And the Civil Rights Project, I work with them too because I testified in court with them, the same thing. So, but some of the letters that you write them to help Marvin has to come from Marvin,
right,
or his family,
absolutely.
Or his brother can write it because he is his blood relative. So so for you to write it and you're in New York, it doesn't have much weight. You see what I mean? You don't have, because they go like, he over there, he not even here. So I'm not saying don't write them, but I know how the weight carries when you do write them.
Absolutely. Yeah, and every letter that I've sent out, I contacted the House for Renewed Hope. I've contacted several other entities or organizations, and I've always, you know, when I was a minister, I always put that down. I always made sure people know I was a minister, the name of my ministry,
Right.
and now I'm a pastor, do the same thing. So I always make sure people know that, because it may add more weight to or significance to the letter, and it to help Marvin. So yeah, I always make sure to identify myself, my title, and everything
Right.
else. So
Yeah, because they pay more attention. I hate that, but they pay more attention to a title or
Yeah.
family association. They pay attention to that because that becomes real. But when you send it as you're just you, they're like, yeah, right, okay, fine.
got you. Yeah, definitely. That definitely makes sense. But the more the merrier, you know. With Garrett being his family member, and then for Marvin and myself, the combination, and others, yourself maybe, and other people, that'll be even more powerful, and I think we'll have a better chance of getting a positive reception from someone. And like Marvin said, he's better get someone to bite on this and be willing to help him. But what I wanted to say, do you have any questions, man? I've been doing just going over like the case file. And I did want to talk about just things that I read in the case file, according to the police reports,
Right.
that I think are quite damning towards the police. And you know, if you'd like me to talk about that, or I can play the video, because I have a really powerful video that from Marvin. It's one of the last videos we recorded, and he talks about a lot of important information.
How long is the video? How long is it?
It's 14 minutes. I don't have to play the entire thing. But
Okay.
That's one of the videos that I have.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We're ready.
Do that real quick. No, that's not the one. Okay. Go to the Facebook page real quick.
And Garrett's gonna write a letter to the Innocence Project.
Okay. And Pastor Nick, I appreciate everything that you do. I haven't had many people in Marvin's corner, and I appreciate everything that you do.
Well, I'm happy to do it by the grace of God, to be there for him. I'm going to fight until he receives justice and freedom, and I know it's going to happen.
And I
at
really
some point
appreciate
in time.
that.
We just have to keep fighting, keep getting the truth out there, and eventually the truth will win out, and he's going to get out. So we just have to find the video, one specific video. That's not the one either.
To send to the Innocence Project, you basically have everything.
On the Innocent Project?
To send them, yeah, you do. You just need to send them a copy of that booklet you have, not all of it, but most of it, and then they work.
Did I keep a copy of that?
Yes.
I think I gave all that to Marvin. But it shouldn't be no problem with me coming up with that information again. But when I made that book,
Right.
I spent hours making that book,
Yes, you did. I
and
see.
not just hours. I spent days
Yeah.
because I made a
That was
lot,
a book.
and I gave it to Marvin. I sent it, and I'm sure they probably went in and
Yeah, they did.
and
Yeah, they
took
did.
out what they wanted
Yeah,
to take out.
of course.
But yeah, maybe I do still have it. I don't know. I gotta look.
I had to change my letters to him because I realized the one letter he didn't get because he didn't answer the next one. So I put my title on his letter, so now he gets them. I'm like, for real, I got to do this to get it. I'm like, okay. So I put Phyllis Jones, Texas State Indo. He got those.
Okay, so here's the video. Let me play it for you.
Okay.
Can you hear that?
Not good. But you know what I'll do? Because it might not play well because it's playing over two. Oh,
You can look that up.
no, he got disconnected. What I'm gonna do, the for everybody, the videos that Pastor Nick has, what I'm going to do is put them on my Facebook page, my Community Connections Facebook page, so that we can hear them, and you could hear it when you want to and when you need to. So you're back?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry about that.
No, what I was saying, what I'm saying, I just announced it on the radio. I'm going to take the videos that you have and put them on my Community Connections station Facebook page,
Wonderful.
because that would be easier. Then people can listen to it in its entirety. Because when you're playing it over or something that's playing over like twice, it became like gobbledygook. So I'll put it that way, and then people can actually listen to it.
Right.
Big.
That's great. Yeah, and that's the number 19 video in particular that people, I mean, every one of the videos you want to tune into, but the video I was going to play is number 19. He summarizes the situation, the challenges he's facing very effectively. So number 19, that's the one I was going to play. But I have videos that deal with, let's see, just a whole host of things, anything you can imagine. And on the website, if you go to freemarvinlguy.com,
Right.
all the videos that I've recorded are on there.
Okay.
You go there, video link, bam, you can check out every video. Marvin talking about the no-knock raid, talking about police corruption, talking about the corruption of his attorneys, the video visitation call I did with Marvin, everything is there. Marvin, he made an appeal for good legal representation. That's there as well. So check out all those videos. Easier than going to the Facebook page, although support the Facebook page, share it if you're able to.
Yes, I can do that.
Share the website, share the videos, because it's just so powerful. And if people want to support his campaign financially, in terms of legal defense fund, I created a legal defense fund that you can find on the website. It's right on the homepage, and you can donate that way if you feel so led to do that. Keep Marvin in your prayers, please. He's a man of faith. He knows that the Lord is in control, and he's not afraid. The last time I talked to him was over 2 weeks ago, and he said, God is in control. This is a fight. This is a battle. We're in it for the long run, and I know justice is going to happen. This is what he was saying, and we just got to stick with it. And I said, of course, absolutely, the Lord is in control, and things are going to shake out the way they're supposed to, but you're going to get justice and freedom finally. It's going to happen, just in the right time. So, but yeah, the resources, there's a lot of good information that, and like the documentary film I made, and then just a bunch of other stuff you can find there. Great articles exposing the corruption around the situation. Everything can be found on his website. So you can find his Facebook page through the website.
Right.
You can find, you can purchase a T-shirt that I made that Marvin wanted me to make, and that I was happy to make. It says Free Marvin Lewis Guy, exclamation mark, hashtag Free Marvin Lewis Guy, and then victim of a no-knock raid, unjustly charged with killing an officer, facing the death penalty, and no-knock raid. So people can purchase the T-shirt and get exposed what's going on with that. But all the documents on here that Marvin has sent me, and also that I got from Clay Ford, who was a former writer.
Yeah,
He's the crime reporter for the Killeen Day Herald, who was run out of town by the police.
I interviewed him. I interviewed him on the radio.
Yeah, I interviewed him as well, and he told me all about what happened.
Yes.
And he's the one who actually sent me Marvin's entire case file.
Okay.
And Marvin kept telling me about Clay Thorpe, so I did my own research, and I found out where he's located.
Yes.
I got in touch with him, and he was like, okay, I'm happy to help you, but I just need to hear from Marvin that it's okay for me to release his case file to you.
Right.
I said, great. So Marvin, the next time Marvin and I spoke, I recorded a video. I had Marvin record a message telling Clay it was okay. So he released it to me, and he and I eventually connected, and we did that interview. But that case file, this is where you'll read the police report, starting on page 210 to 11 to the end of the document, and it's page 336. And you will read the police admitting that this was a no-knock raid. Okay.
Yes.
You have let me see here. You have Jonathan Reinhart, Pamela Asma, Raul Montez, among others, admit that it was a no-knock raid.
Right.
But at the same time, you have officers like Zachary Akers and several others who said that they heard that either they or others said, Killeen, police search warrant or police search warrant. So if it's a no-knock raid, there's a major discrepancy here. So if it's a no-knock raid, the purpose of a no-knock raid is so that you don't alert the person you're raiding to your presence. You're not going to knock. You're not going to announce yourself. So on the one hand, Pamela Asma talked about how there was a double briefing, okay, regarding two no-knock raids they were supposed to be conducting on the same street, one for Marvin, one for another gentleman. And then Jonathan Reinhardt admitted to that as well, that they were in a briefing at 4:30 a.m. The KPD, the KPD SWAT team, as well as Bocas, they were there for a briefing about the no-knock raid on Marvin's place, and yet you have officers like Zachary Akers and others saying they announced themselves. So there's a serious discrepancy here. On top of that, I want to say, in addition to that, the police interviewed a number of the neighbors. And some of the neighbors acknowledged that they heard the police say, identify themselves, but they said different things. They didn't hear police search warrant. They heard one woman named Helen Mack heard police. Well, according to Zachary Akers, whenever the police announce themselves, they say police search warrant. They're trained to say police search warrant and nothing else. But now you have a neighbor who claims that they heard the police say police. That's different than police search warrant, okay? And it's not a small discrepancy in my mind. So they heard that. But most of the neighbors admitted on record that they heard shouting. They couldn't make out what they were hearing. And then they heard shots fired. Now, what I believe they heard, and again, I'm not an expert, but I'm just giving my opinion, there were some of the police in this police report that the various police reports that said that they yelled shots fired because Marvin was shooting from inside the apartment. I believe that's what they heard.
Right.
I don't believe that when they're saying they heard shouting that they heard the police announce themselves. I believe they heard shots fired, and then they responded with shots. And it would have been much easier for them to hear the police shoot than Marvin shoot. Because some of the police officers even admitted they didn't initially know what was going on. When they heard Marvin shooting, they didn't realize it was Marvin shooting. That in fact they heard what sounded like firecrackers. It threw them off. So if they had a hard time making out Marvin shooting from inside the apartment, you can only imagine that the neighbors who were a distance away wouldn't have heard that. Especially if there's a lot of commotion going on outside of his apartment with them doing what they were doing.
Right.
But we had one neighbor, I do want to mention this, it was, well, actually two neighbors, they're a couple, the Guadalupes, who said that they heard the KPD outside of Marvin's apartment at 5:15 a.m. on May 9th, 2014. And they claimed they heard the police say, police. But the problem with that is that according to Officer John Mosley, he's actually the first police officer that gives a statement in Marvin's case file. So on page 210, 211, around there, you'll read Officer Mosley, he's the first one. And he said that at 5:15 a.m., the police were doing a pre-raid surveillance of Marvin's apartment. So they rode by and they saw that the lights were off in Marvin's apartment, that there was no movement. And so how could they be possibly, so again, there's another discrepancy. How could they be at his house that early yelling police if they were doing a pre-raid surveillance? So I'm just pointing out several discrepancies. And I know that people can say, well, these are neighbors, these are civilians, they don't know what they're talking about. But I can tell you, if that's me, and anyone else, you'll know if people are out there saying or doing that stuff. If there's that type of commotion at that time of the morning when it's relatively quiet, there shouldn't be that type of discrepancy between what the neighbor says and what the police testify to. So consistently in the police reports, what you're reading is that they had a briefing at 4:30 in the morning. Then you had the SWAT team go first to Marvin's place, then Bocas and the KPD, the regular KPD. and they didn't get there until around between 5:40 and 5:50. Okay, and yet you have several, and again, the consistent message, the consistent theme among the neighbors is that they heard yelling, they heard shouting, it sounded like arguing, and then they heard shots fired. Now, there was a discrepancy between each witness, between how many shots were fired, what was said, what took place, and it's crazy to me because even though they're not trained like the police are, you're going to, whatever happened, you should hear it, right?
Right.
You're not the one who's been traumatized. You're not the one that, like Marvin or Shirley, who's been traumatized. So you should be, whatever they said, if they actually said police, you would have heard that. So I don't know where that person is getting it, if they're even telling the truth, because I'll be completely honest, I think the police are lying through their teeth. They've scapegoated Marvin, and he is an easy target because he's poor and he's black. Plain and simple, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, that's true.
It's very sad. They can get away with this because of that. Because if you look at it, his civil rights were violated in this process when they arrested him. And so based on the police report and based on Marvin's testimony that you'll see in the police report, and I encourage people to check it out, based on what Clay told me during the interview as well, what happened is Marvin thought that there were people after him, not the police.
Right.
He thought there were bad guys after him. He saw a car parked outside of his, down the street, a brown vehicle, I believe, down the street and outside, and he was concerned about that. So that night he felt something bad was going to happen. He didn't think it was going to be the police raiding his apartment, and so when the police came and they did this no-knock raid and they broke the window, okay, that's what woke him up.
Right.
When they did the rake and break or the break and rake on the window,
Yes.
okay, the glass and then raking it away, that woke him up. His first instinct was to defend himself because he thought someone was trying to break in and hurt him and Shirley.
Yes.
What did he do? He shot at them.
That's what
As soon as they returned fire, he threw his weapons down, ran to the back of the apartment, and that's when he was confronted by the police and realized, okay, this is the police light because of the flashlights they were using. And so that's when he was abused by them.
Yes.
Police brutality took place. The way they arrested him was completely unjust, which is a violation of his civil rights. Officers exercised undue or excessive force against him, and he's been in prison or in jail for 6 years.
Yes,
So
yes.
the due process has been violated. He hasn't enjoyed the right to a speedy and public trial
True.
by an impartial jury of his peers.
Right.
That has been completely denied to him. To me, they violated his Fourth Amendment right. Illegal search and seizure, no illegal search and seizure. They did that. Just the and in Killeen, and I could be wrong about this, but I read that they've ended the practice of the no-knock raid.
No.
Because of how violent it is.
No.
So,
That's not true.
okay, it's not true. Okay.
No, that's not true.
That is not true. But in Houston, I believe in Houston, I read an article about how in Houston they've ended it. That may be not true.
Houston did end theirs because of because of something. Killeen has not ended theirs yet. But I'm gonna have to cut you off because it's almost the end of my show.
Okay, not a problem. I just want people to check out his website,
Okay.
marvinlguy.com, and his Facebook page, and go from there and do what you can to help Marvin because he's innocent.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
All right.